Hello students, as we have studied family law 1 in the previous semester, this semester we are going to study or know about the family law 2 course. You must be aware of this fact that whenever we talk about family law, it generally means that the personal law of different communities, whether they are Hindus, whether they are Muslims, whether they are Christians, or whether they are Parsis. So, in the previous semester, you have studied about Family Law 1, in which we discussed about the marriage, divorce, maintenance, adoption, guardianships of various individuals of different communities. Whereas in the family law 2 part, we will discuss about basically about the inheritance and succession of these individuals who are belonging to the different communities depending upon their personal law. So before starting with this family law 2, I just want to give you a brief introduction about why we study this course, or you can simply say that why family law course is important. So when we talk about family law, being an individual, you must be aware of this thing that family is a term which most of us are aware of, and most of our life revolves around this concept of family. So when we talk about India, in India, the personal matters of an individual, there is no national or religious law, regional law. Most of the personal issues, whether they are marriage, whether they are divorce, whether they are relating to inheritance succession, all these issues are determined not by the individual's domicile or nationality, but by the membership of the community to which that individual belongs. So if a person belongs to Hinduism or Hindu religion, the personal law that will be applicable will be Hindu law. So if an individual belongs to a Muslim religion, then the personal law which will be applicable will be the Muslim law. So all these issues, generally when we talk about this personal laws or personal matters, simply we can classify the life of an individual revolves around two spheres: personal sphere and the private sphere, as well as the you personal sphere, one thing, and the public sphere is the second thing. So when we talk about private sphere includes marriage, the areas which are very personal. So this sphere will include only those things which are very personal, one to one with the individual, like the marriage, divorce, succession, inheritance, guardianship, adoption. So these are the private or personal affairs of an individual, and these affairs are basically guided by the individual personal law of that person or that individual. Then, when we talk about the civil law, since this is also a kind of civil law, but it is basically not like the other civil laws. First thing is, this family law lacks uniformity. You will see that individuals of different religions, the law will be different. The applicability of law will be different, as there may be a provision in which, for example, a daughter is getting equal share in the property of a Hindu male, but a daughter is not getting the equal share of property in case his father is a Muslim. So in case of Islam or Muslim law, daughter's share is not equal to that of the male counterpart. Her share is, you can say, or her brother's share is twice the share of that daughter or that sister. So basically, that is what why the civil law, no doubt, family law is a part of a civil law, but it is not like the other civil law that is uniform. So when we talk about family law, since domestic relations are covering the enormous areas and the bulk is very large, so in order to share the equal bulk, we have divided family law into family law 1 and family law 2. You have studied family law 1 in the previous semester. Here we are going to study about the family law 2, and the family law 2 will basically includes the laws relating to the Hindu joint family property, ancestral property and co-parcel property, succession of separate property both in case of Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Parsis, where certain laws which are relating to gifts, wills, preemption and waqfs under Muslim personal law. So the ambit of family law too is basically revolving around the inheritance and succession only. So when there can be a matter that the inheritance, succession, gift, will, etc. of the individual are guided by the personal law of the individual. So, if a person is a Parsi, then all these matters will be governed by the Parsi law. If he is a Christian, Hindu, or a Muslim, all these matters will be governed by the respective personal law of that individual. So there can be one question that I, being a Hindu, I want to know about the share in the property, or I want my share in the property. The first question will be asked whether that property is a joint family property or ancestral property, or it is the self-acquired property or the separate property. So you will see from this very question, and the response is that there are two modes of devolution of property. For the joint family property, the mode of devolution is different, whereas for the separate property, the mode is different. So these are the issues which we are going to study in the family law too, that how the joint family property is different from the separate property of an individual, and how the property of a male Hindu is different from a property or the scheme of devolution of property of a female Hindu. Before starting with this course, let me give you a little bit brief of this course objective, that what will be the benefit or what are you going to achieve after studying this course. First is you will be able to analyze the problem out of the personal laws. So different personal laws, there may be different problems, and so you, while studying this family law too, you will be able to analyze the problems which are arising among the different personal laws. They critically evaluate the comparative perspective of all these personal laws. For example, when we talk about the property of a Hindu male and female, now as per the Hindu Succession Act, Amendment Act of 2005, male Hindu and female Hindu are getting equal share in the property, whereas still under Muslim law, the share in the property of a Muslim male and Muslim female are still different. They do not get equal share in the property. So this will give you a comprehensive critical approach towards the different personal laws. Then you can examine the laws which are relating to gifts, wills and inheritance. I told you that there are certain foundational inequalities between different personal laws, and through this course, studying this course, you will be able to evaluate those foundational inequalities. And the last is you can analyze the recent trends which are there in various personal laws. For example, when we are talking about the family structure is basically changing day by day. Some scholars says that the joint family structure is at the verge of extinction. Otherwise, you can see that a concept of live-in relationship is there, and the concept of live-in relationship or same-sex marriages has greatly impacted the concept of the joint family structure, or the you can say family structure in terms of these personal laws. Now, giving you a brief course outline, this course has been divided into 8 modules, and the first module is Hindu joint family, second module is interstate succession, third module is testamentary succession, fourth module is disposition of intervivals, that is gifts, how the gifts are to be disposed of. Fifth module is preemption under Islamic law. Sixth module is the Hindu religious endowment, that how these religious endowments are being seen or how they work, what is the role of trustee, what are the powers of the trustee. Then the seventh module is Waqf, which is again Muslim, a concept under Muslim personal law. And the eighth module is basically the family and its changing patterns. So one by one we will generally study about here today a brief introduction about each module. So you can see here a picture of a Hindu joint family. You can see different generations that are living together. You can see the grandparents, you can see the parents, you can see the uncles, aunts, niece, nephews, grandchildren, great grandchildren, etc. So when we talk about the first module will basically cover about the Hindu joint family, and there is a presumption that every Hindu is supposed to live in a joint family, and Hindu joint family is joint in food, worship, and estate. So there are three things where you will see that the joint family is joint. That is food. In matters of food, they are joint. That is, they can have a joint kitchen. In matter of worship, they have a common worship place, and in matter of estate, means property or dwelling house, they are living jointly. So in the first module, we will generally study about the Mitakshara joint family and the Deyabhaga joint family. You all are aware of this thing, and we have previously studied in the first, you can say, previous semester also, that there are two schools of Hindu law, Mitakshara school and the Deyabhaga school. So depending upon those schools, family system is also different. There is a Mitakshara joint family, there is a Deyabhaga joint family. Again, the concept of co-parsonary is there. Then we have a head of a family, which is the Karta. Then in terms of alienation, the joint family property plays an important role, that there are certain circumstances where an individual karta can alienate the joint family property. Then how the partition in the joint family takes place, and how can we reopen the partition, as well as how reunion of the family can take place. So this is all about in the first module. In the second module is basically talking about the interstate succession. See, generally what happens that when we talk about succession, normally a person dies without making a will, or a person can die with making a will, or so when the person dies without making a will, that in that case succession will be interstate succession. Whereas when a person dies with making a will, then that succession is testamentary succession, and the succession of property in case of testamentary succession will be according to the will of that individual. So when we talk about interstate succession take place in Hindu law also, in Muslim law also, in Parsi and Christian law also. When we talk about Hindu law, generally the Hindu Succession Act of 1955 with the recent amendment in 2005 talks about the general principles of Hindu succession or interstate succession. So a male Hindu dies without making a will. There are different, you can say, rules of succession, that how the property will devolve upon his successor or heirs. When a female Hindu dies without making a will, how the property will devolve upon her, you can say, successors or family members. Similarly, when we talk about Islamic law or Muslim law, is under Muslim law also there are two schools, Shia schools and Sunni schools. So the classification of here, their shares, the property distribution will also differ. So we will study all these, you can say, contingencies in the second module. When we talk about Christian law and Parsi law, So the succession will generally be covered under the Indian Succession Act of 1925, and we will study these issues in module 2. Coming on to the third module, I told you that testamentary succession is a succession which take place according to the will of the individual. So, will can be made under the Hindu Succession Act, Section 30. Will can also be made under the Islamic law, and will can also be made under the Indian Succession Act of 1925. So, all these provisions relating to the will, we will study these different provisions under different personal laws under this module 3. Module 4 basically talks about gifts. There are different concepts of gift under Hindu law and Muslim law. In Hindu law, we generally say that